Hi, I'm Nyesha McCauley, and you're watching AccessTV.org.
Welcome to Make It Happen, and my name is Pamela. You know, today was really rainy. I just got to get this off my mind, and it's a very, very beautiful day right now. So, what is this? April 26th. What a nice, beautiful day. Thank you, weather people. Anyway, have you ever wanted to know more about journalism, what it takes to be a journalist, and what various word types of journalists write about? Well, I want to welcome you and also my guest, Mr. Frank Harris III. He's a professor of journalism over at SCSU out in New Haven, Connecticut, and he's been a professor a long time. And what I'd like to welcome you to my show.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Okay. What I also want you to tell our viewers how you really got into journalism.
Well, for me, it came about in a roundabout way. I mean, I was a journalism student, or it was my master's degree, in undergrad. I'm sorry, I'm starting out getting a little confused here. I guess I'm getting old. I've been teaching for too long. My master's degree was at University of Texas, and that was in journalism. But prior to that, it was not my degree. I just always liked to write. I came about in journalism basically through writing. And in terms of teaching, that was something that kind of fell into place in kind of a roundabout way, as I was saying before. Mm-hmm. I'd always I was actually working in corporate America initially, and then I started off writing columns and writing pieces for different areas, and I got invited to speak once at Southern Connecticut State University to the journalism students, and then they asked me to teach part-time, and then eventually I became a full-time professor.
Wow, that is very fantastic.
It was kind of interesting. Again, most people, when they go to teach, particularly at the college level, they tend to, that's what they studied for to do. For me, and for many journalists who do end up teaching, they sometimes go about it in after having been in the profession or having done some writing for it, they find their way into that way.
Oh, well, how many people do you have in your class, actually?
Well, it depends. I mean, we teach a number of classes. I mean, my classes, they may range from 12 to 25 people. It really depends. And I prefer to have the smaller classes, most people do. Particularly for writing classes, it can really take a lot to grade a lot of papers if you're really going to be particular about it.
Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness gracious. Now, I know they had to have some type of English before they go into the journalism class, am I correct?
Right. Well, English 112, or different schools have their different numbers for it, but you have to really have an English background, or at least not an English background, but it helps to have a good writing background because you're going to be doing a lot of writing, of course. So.
I remember I took English because I felt like a journalist because I had to write so much. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, it's writing is really a key part of it for sure.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Mhm.
And in your classes, what do you ask your students to write about, actually?
Well, these are reporting and writing classes. So essentially they're writing about topics that may be, I won't say in the news because they're writing about things that will be newsworthy. But it could be things on campus, things relating to happenings off campus that they would connect to the campus. For instance, they may write about things such as sports, they may write about sexual abuse, they may write about the war going on around the world in different parts of the world. They may write about crime. It could be any number of different topics, just as you would see in the regular newspapers or on TV. So it's basically, it's life. They're writing about life.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I want to just let everybody know that you do write a column in the Hartford
Yes,
Current
I do.
every Thursday?
Well, every other
Every
Thursday.
other Thursday,
actually.
I'm sorry,
Right.
every other Thursday.
Mhm.
What, you've been doing that for how long now?
For the Current, I guess it's been almost 10 years now, I would suppose.
Wow.
And prior to that, I was writing for the Register, New Haven Register. And prior to that, a number of other newspapers, just submitting columns for the most part.
Wow, that is interesting. Oh my goodness. And you gotta love what you do. And you were telling me
Yes,
earlier you
that's
love
actually
it.
one of my mottos that I tell all my students. Find something that you love and do it. Love what you do what you love. So
Oh, yeah.
that's essentially what I've been doing.
And what is the most important thing that you ask your students pertaining to writing? And writing what would you ask them to write? To write.
Well,
Interested in
I mean,
writing.
first of all, I want them to write clearly and effectively. I mean, it's grammar and punctuation are important. If you have mistakes in your writing, it really just attacks the credibility of it. So it's important that you have your writing is structurally sound. And then it's also important that you're accurate with the information. I want to have also stories to be grabbing, to hook the readers right away, because if you don't hook the reader right away, that person's going to go on into something else.
Yeah.
So those are the main things I look for, and a strong ending. So grab them in the beginning and keep them talking at the end. So those are the two main elements that I stress to students.
Oh my goodness gracious. So any of your children, if you have any, are they in your profession?
Yes, I have 4 daughters. My oldest, their ages are really quite quite different. I have a 26-year-old and a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old and a 21-year-old. So they've got quite a range of all girls.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, so
Wow.
the girls rule. So I've been told. So. But my 26-year-old is actually, she writes for Slate magazine, which is an online publication, and she's been writing for them for, I guess, since she finished NYU grad school. She wrote a piece, I guess, earlier this year, or late, was it earlier this year? Late last year, about Santa Claus. It sparked the CNN controversy with the host and making a bunch of comments. She wound up being on a number of different TV shows,
wow.
CNN, and he talked about it on Saturday Night Live and a whole lot of other places.
Oh my goodness.
But she started as a theater major, but she always was a strong writer. And that's Aisha, and I have a 21-year-old Zakia who's about to graduate from UNC Chapel Hill. So she's also a strong writer. When she was in, I guess it was middle school, she actually won a national writing contest. And,
That's amazing. Oh my
and then my 6-year-old and my 4-year-old, they both like to write as well. I mean, I've always
Great.
stressed, I'm not gearing the younger ones to become writers. However, I do believe that writing is probably the best foundation that you can have academically for children, because if they can read and they can write, it really just is a strong foundation for everything else. And one thing I always stress to people is reading to your children and getting them interested in books early. Because I was reading to them, and for as long as they were around, I guess. So even when they were not young enough to understand, they were read books and things of that sort.
Very popular book is The Cat in the Hat. which I've enjoyed
Yes,
reading.
all of those books.
Yes.
But I also made up stories, just created
you
stories
did?
for them.
Wow.
I mean, just stories that I would just make up, and sometimes it would become a game just to take a word and then make a story of it, and I would have them kind of do the same thing. So.
Oh, that is really fabulous. That is really great. And being a professor over in New Haven at CSU, what is the humorous topic or the column? Excuse me, I'm going to reword this. What is the funniest column that you wrote, or a column that you thought was funny that you wrote in?
It's kind of hard to remember the funniest. I mean, I recently wrote a column about my being a professor, and a lot of readers thought it was funny. At least the teachers who wrote in thought it was funny. It was essentially my writing about students complaining about me being too tough. And I said in the column that from now on I was just going to give students an easy A. So I was going to call myself Easy A Harris, and from now on that's going to be my name. And I basically recounted some of the experiences that I had with students. I said from now on, if you come to my class, or if you take my online class and you present a presentation, a video presentation with no shirt on, I won't give you an F, which is what one student did actually. And,
wow.
Which I got and so on down. So basically it was a tongue-in-cheek type of thing. And at the end of the column I indicated that teaching will make you crazy, and one indication of this is that I've gotten confused. I think it's April 1st. So it's kind of like an April Fool's joke that no, I'm not changing. I'm still going to be giving out grades and being tough as I've always been. So
wow.
So I thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah, it's good to have a tough teacher,
Well, that's what I believe. I think, my feeling is that, there's times have changed, and I find a lot of students who come in, I won't say that they're unprepared, but I find that many times that I'm very particular about deadlines.
Okay.
I want people to meet their deadlines. I want people to follow instructions. So if I say, for instance, that it should have this in the story, or you should follow this, it should be there by this time. If it's not on time, to me, that's unacceptable. And I think that it's important that young men and young women who are going to be out in the workforce in whatever capacity, because I teach not only journalism majors, I teach students who may have totally different career aspirations. But in any case, you have to have discipline.
Yes.
You have to have this idea that you're going to produce the best item that you can on time with the instructions that were provided, and not count on somebody to cut you some slack. Because the world out there may not cut you slack.
Yeah.
So my feeling is that early on, if you have it within you to basically focus on doing the job right, and this is probably one of my father's things that was passed down to me, was that he would also always stress doing a good job. And I remember particularly one day when I was helping him wax his car. And the family car, and I knew how particular he was, so I had waxed his car. It was on a Sunday in the backyard under a shade tree, and I was finishing up on it. And he came out and he said, "So you finish it?" And so I'm saying, "Well, I guess I got a little bit more." And he just, my feeling was that it wasn't good enough. But he said, "Oh, I'm just joking with you. It's a great job or whatever." But the idea was that I wasn't sure if it was still good enough, because I wanted to make sure I met those standards. And my feeling is that not so much that I want people to just meet my standards, but I want them to set high standards for themselves, so that whatever goal I have may not be as their own internal goal of achieving or of doing an excellent job. So that's what I really want to instill.
Wow. Well, maybe I might take one of your classes.
Well,
I got to be disciplined.
Well, I tell people that if they take my class, they should be prepared to work hard.
A lot of research.
And I've actually, I don't want to go into pledges, but I actually wrote about asking students to take a pledge that I will not do this, I will not complain. If you take this class, it's a tough class, but if you make it through it, you will be the better for it. And that's my humble belief. So.
Okay. So do some of your students actually go out to get jobs, like internships and stuff like that?
Yes.
to
Internships
different
are
things?
required in the department, and they do intern at newspapers, TV stations, radio stations, and public relations places as well. So they do go on to in the field, but some people go outside the field. Some decide they want to go to law school, some go to other fields. And the thing about journalism is that it's if you know how to write, if you know how to report, if you know how to ask questions and do research, it's something that is valuable in fields outside of journalism. It will help you no matter what you do. So I don't expect that everybody who's a journalism major will go into the field,
Right.
but I do think that they have benefited from being in the department, from having the discipline, not just from myself, but from the other instructors who are teaching them just so many skills that they'll be able to carry with them for a lifetime.
Wow. And that is really, really interesting to know. So if anybody out there is interested in journalism over at New Haven at CSU, get in touch and enroll in Frank. Actually, I'm going to put it to Frank Harris III. He's a professor of journalism. Just enroll in this class and check it out. I know it'll be good. It'll be a good experience for everybody. I just want to go for the experience now.
Okay. All right.
So, and later on, what we will be talking about is some of your other columns and your books that you wrote. Actually, when I say wrote, co-authored. Okay, so we'll be right back with Make It Happen.
Hi, I'm Janice Fleming, and you're watching AccessTV.org.
At Hartford Public Schools, we care about one thing above all, the future of our kids. That's why we're dedicated to providing all students with the knowledge and skills needed in the new global culture. Hartford Public Schools is thriving. More student success stories, more world-class facilities, more university and corporate partnerships, more amazing talent coming and staying in Hartford. This is how education is supposed to work. Welcome to Hartford Public Schools, where the future is present.
Welcome. And I'm back. I'm also back with my guest, Mr. Frank Harris III, Professor of Journalism over at SCSU out in New Haven. Earlier we were talking about his class, his students, what he was doing, and you know, a little bit about journalism. Now it's time that I want to talk about some of his books that he had co-authored. And we were talking earlier about one of the books.
Right.
And can you tell our viewers more about the book? That it was like the media, Freedom and Power, an examination of freedom of expression in America. So
Right, this is a book. It was actually only one book that I've co-authored. That
Okay.
was with my colleague, Jerry Dunkley, who's also a professor at Southern. And the book is about freedom of expression, the First Amendment. And we created the book and created the class actually maybe 15 years ago. The
wow.
idea was that we felt that it was important for people, for students, for citizens to know about the First Amendment and what it means. So the book essentially addresses the First Amendment in its many capacities. We talk about the 5 freedoms. We talk about the effect that it has. We talk about the conflicts that come when people have different views on different areas of the First Amendment. For instance, we usually bring real-life examples into play. For instance, years ago there was a family, I think in North Haven, that had a Nazi flag, a swastika in the window,
yes.
and the people in the community were upset about it. Should they be allowed to have this flag in the window of their own home, or was this offensive or harmful to people in the neighborhood? Well, people could complain, but they had a right to do this. This was in their own home. Even if it was out on the street, if they wanted to wear a flag, they are protected by the First Amendment because it's freedom of expression. So we look at different examples. We look at, for instance, wartime. Should journalists be able to write things that might criticize the government? Should they show things like Abu Ghraib, the embarrassments or the things that went on when soldiers humiliated the dead bodies of another country's people?
That's terrible.
And again, it's one of the most important rights that we have as American citizens. The book covers that, and we actually, for many years, we've self-published it, but we have a publisher who's interested in publishing it, so we'll get greater distribution. And the book should come out later this year, later in the fall, we believe.
Wow.
So that's one of the books. The other book is a book of writing that I wrote called The Craft of Quoting, which also is going to be published this year. And the book deals with basically how to write quotes, how to effectively present when you've quoted someone. It's more than just putting quotation marks around it. So so those are two books that really I've focused on as of late.
Wow, that's really good. And I noticed that you've also went around and did some surveys on one topic, and this topic, I'll go into it just for a little bit. It's about the N-word, how people feel about it, and what I went on the website, I went to Google, I Googled it, and then I Googled you, and then it brought up the article called the N Project, I think. Is that
N-word Project. The N-word Project.
N-word Project.
It's something I'm actually doing research on the many different names that Americans of African descent have been known by or referred to over the years of our existence in this country. And so that's how the project started, with me looking at the many words, from Negro to black to colored to nigger, mulatto, all the different changes. And the N-word has been such a big part of the news as of late. I said, let me focus on this particular word. And part of the focus involved me going around the country interviewing random people about their first experience with the word or their most memorable experience with the word. So it's taken me to places and to people whom I otherwise would not have given the light of day to or gone to. Like, for instance, I was crossing the border from, I think it was Maryland into Virginia about 4 weeks ago. And I saw this big Confederate sign over this store, and it said, "The South starts here." And I was driving by, and I kept on driving. And then I made a U-turn. I said, I'm going to talk to everyone. So I went into this store, and I talked to this woman. And it was totally different from what I expected. But it was an interesting conversation. And there was this other one that was even more interesting than that was in South Carolina when I went to this pawn shop. I just said, I'm going to go to this in Spartanburg, South Carolina. I'm just going to stop in here. It was a gun and a pawn shop. So I went in there, and there was this old white man and two other older white people in there. And I told him what I was doing. He said, "The what?" I said, "The N-word, as in nigger, or. And he said, "Yeah, I'll talk to you." So I talked to him. I said, "Do you use the N-word?" He says, "No, sir." And I said, "I stopped using it because I found God," or something to that effect. I believe everybody's created equal. But he said it when he was born. He said he used to use the N-word, and he didn't know anybody who didn't. And that he'd known it only, he'd grown up saying it since birth. And I was in Atlanta, and I talked to some homeless people. I've talked to a number of different people. The interesting perspectives are that many of the young blacks who I've talked to have said their first knowledge of it first experience with it was from the music, from the culture.
Right.
Whereas older blacks have, remember being called that name, or it's a different type of memory. So there's all these different perspectives on it, and it's really been enlightening to hear people talk about it and to hear, it's just been a fascinating, probably one of the most fascinating things I've been involved with maybe in my life in terms of the writing and interviewing people and recording what they're saying.
Right. I also noticed that it's been in some various types of music too. Some music that you do listen to, they use the word too also.
That's
how can they put that on the air?
That's for me the word is I don't like hearing the word.
Right. I don't either.
But through this project, I'm hearing the different perspectives. I still don't like hearing the word, but when I'm hearing people say it now, I mean, at one point to hear someone white telling me that they used the word would automatically really just make me feel very strongly against this person. Now I've heard it so much from everyone, from Asians to whites to blacks. I won't say that I've become immune to the word, but I guess in terms of doing this project, it's like I'm hearing, well, do you use the word? Yes, I use the word. No, I don't use the word. I once used the word, even from blacks who I would not have thought would have used the word. So it's almost like everybody has that experience somewhere if you've been in America. No matter who you are, no matter how old you are, everyone has some experience with that word. And it's just been a fascinating adventure to hear people describe it.
Where you teach out in Southern Connecticut State University, and you give one of your students an assignment, do they ever get like a writer's block?
I'm sure they do, but usually they have an assignment where they need to. It's a particular topic, or they will have their own topics. They can but they can gather their own topics and write about it. So I'm sure that they have writer's block. Everybody has writer's block at some time, but when you're in the profession of journalism, you're going out and you're interviewing other people. So the opportunity to have writer's block should not really be as profound as if you were doing fiction and were creating something. In nonfiction or journalism or reporting, the information comes from the people you interview. So I do have students sometimes who have trouble going out and interviewing people, which if that's the kind of trouble you have, then it's really difficult to be in this profession if you don't overcome it, because it involves really going out and interviewing people who you don't know most times, and people who you may not have given the light of day to. But for me, I've found that sometimes the best interviews come from the people whom you least expect, and they have telling things to say.
Because I like to talk to people. That's my thing. Sometimes I just go out there, I just talk to them. How do you talk to them?
Well,
I do because I want to know.
That is key, the ability to be able to talk to different people about any topic, and to be comfortable doing it, and most importantly, to make that other person feel comfortable talking to you.
Oh, of course. That's one good thing to know about. I also want to know, what is your other topic that you ask students, or when you ask students to write something, very serious? What are one of the columns that one of your students, if I can get this out, excuse me, everybody, one of your students wrote?
Well, I mean, I'm trying to remember. They write about different topics. I mean, I just graded some papers this morning. One student wrote about a group on campus that is basically geared toward helping those who've been sexually assaulted, and so he wrote about that topic. Another person wrote about an organization on campus. Another person wrote about, I think, a sports event that occurred. So there's a lot of different topics, and they can choose whatever they want to write about, or sometimes they're assigned by others. So when I say others, it could be the newspaper staff, it could be me, but mostly I let them choose their own topics and go from there.
Yeah, and yes, I found out, through the news that there is a lot of, or sexual assault is going on in different colleges. And
yes, it is. And I don't know if this occurred at the college. I mean, these were people just talking about something that occurred in the past, so it could have been anywhere for that matter.
Yeah. Okay, because I know some girls have recently been sexually assaulted, but I think that was at Yale. And they were going to court about that.
I'm sure it's everywhere.
Yeah, it is. It's terrible. Let's see. Tell me what really motivates you into writing your columns every other Thursday.
A deadline for one. It's knowing that I have to write it. But yeah, I guess. But that's not my motivation. I just love to write, and I love to be able to. To me, it's an honor to be able to write something that other people want to read, and to be able to choose the topic that I want to write about. So it could be something humorous, it could be something serious, and it's just something that I'm motivated to do it. No one is telling me or making me do it. No one's. It's something, and that's, again, it goes down to loving what you do and doing what you love. When you love what you do, it doesn't matter how much time you're putting in it. There are times I've told people where I'm on my laptop, on my computer writing, and I'm almost falling asleep, and that's when I know it's time to call it a night. But it's something that it's self-motivation. It's just basically wanting to do it and just a passion.
Now, for being a speaker for various occasions or various things that are going on in the state of Connecticut, I know you were a guest speaker because we had you at one of my functions here. It was a Black Heritage Month celebration. You were the guest speaker, so that's why I really, you really kind of inspired me to really talk to you more. Remember when I came to you afterwards?
Right, I remember that, yes.
So that was a long time ago.
2
that
years
was
ago, I think.
Yes,
Right.
yes. So I finally got in touch with you, and I really do appreciate you coming here.
Well, thank you. It's been a pleasure.
I do. And for anyone that's going to college and that's interested in taking your class or in journalism, what advice would you give them?
Well, I would say to hone up on your writing skills, and that's the main thing. And read the newspapers. Read the newspaper. Read whether it's online or on your tablet or whatever. Reading is the most important thing. Read for information, but also read to analyze how other people are writing. So that would be one of the main things. And also you have to be technically knowledgeable as well. Know how to use Final Cut Pro. Those things will be taught in the school, but learn how to use cameras, learn how to. And a lot of students are just learning this already early on anyway. But it's an adventure, and you have to really be comfortable with deadlines and really just looking to excel. My feeling is you should strive to be the best. That's what I believe. Strive to be the best, regardless of what you plan to do. And that starts early.
Oh, so I was going to ask you, do you have your students take cameras out? And you answer that question for me.
Yes, they do take the cameras out, and that's a good thing.
Yes, that is good, so they can get that experience no matter what. It's like you learn as you go on and from their experiences.
Right.
Oh, wow. Well, it's been fun talking to you.
Likewise. I appreciate it.
Oh, no problem. And I want to thank you for coming on. Make it happen.
All right.
And next time, join me again. Remember to watch it, like it, and share it.